Greetings, this is Rick Koppel, and this is my Parkinson's journey. And today I'm a little bit on the bouncy side, and just a little bit of dyskinesia and stiffness in my neck. It tends to happen about 2 or 3 times a day, depending on my medication schedule and all that good stuff. So I'm just I took some medication almost a little over an hour ago, and still waiting for it to kick in good. But I'm here, as I promised, to talk about something that hopefully will help get rid of a lot of this mess and help us to get going, help me to get going on nor as I said to somebody, get more of my life back. So as a note, this is the first time I've tried a live YouTube, so I hope there's a lot of settings you got to try and get right. I don't know if it's all correct, and so hopefully this isn't too choppy or broken up and my computer can handle the load fine. But just warning, if it does end up being not too good, that's why, because I'm a newbie at this. First shot at doing it on YouTube. So anyway, what I wanted to talk about today was a deep brain stimulation. And as some of you may have known if you followed my blog or seen me on videos talking about it before, you know what it is. But for some of those that might come on later and not really know exactly what we're talking about, let me explain a little bit of what deep brain stimulation is. In Parkinson's, you end up with dying brain cells that produce dopamine, and so you get a lower and lower amount of dopamine. And aside from dopamine being the well-known pleasure drug, which really doesn't give you pleasure, it just simply lets your brain know that something is pleasurable. But aside from that function that's pretty well known, it also is a very key ingredient in controlling movement. It basically signals the pathways from one brain cell to the nerves to move this way or do that. It operates your whole body, as a matter of fact. It's kind of a signaling messenger. And in Parkinson's, those cells start dying off earlier than they would in a normal human being, for reasons we either don't know or some of them we know, some of them we don't. It's kind of a mystery for most people why they get it. But as these brains, dopamine starts going down to levels where it starts to affect your ability to move and control yourself, and you get tremors, or there's all sorts of other symptoms that I could list. I've got several of them, from constipation, struggling swallowing, slowness is often a common one when my meds are getting off, drooling. There's all sorts of things that you don't realize how much the dopamine controls or takes effect on until you end up in this situation. But one of the ways that they deal with that is through medication, which basically tries to stuff more dopamine into your brain through taking levodopa. And there's some other medicines that either assist with that process or help it out. That's one route. The route that I'm hoping to go on, or I guess I am going on, is called deep brain stimulation. That's where they insert a lead down into your brain, more than one actually, because you have to have one for each side of the brain, for each side of the body. And they position the leads so they're just the right spot, that when electrical impulses are sent into the leads, very gentle, not nothing where you're going to look like Bugs Bunny sticking his finger in a socket, but the gentle little electrical impulse goes down, and it basically blocks the signals that the misfiring dopamine is triggering that cause people to tremor. And so you calm down and you're able to function more normally without sometimes either greatly reducing the amount of medication that you're taking, or sometimes in some cases for some people totally get off of it altogether until it gets bad enough that they have to start getting back on it again. But for a lot of it right now with the medications, part of the problem is, for me, is a lot of people have what's called the sweet spot, where there's a level of dopamine in your brain that gets to there where you can not be so tremor-y, where it takes care of the tremors, but it doesn't go to the other extreme and overexcite your nervous system and cause dyskinesia, which is what you're seeing in my head bobbing right now. This is dyskinesia. Right now I got both. I got tremors and dyskinesia, so as you can see, my sweet spot isn't very big. It usually lasts for maybe an hour or two a day, or per dose, and I take 4 doses a day, and sometimes it works better than other times too, but a lot of people with Parkinson's have a sweet spot where they can take the right amount of dopamine and they don't get dyskinesia, and it takes care of the tremors. But as you progress along, that sweet spot starts to get smaller and smaller, and so basically the ability for your brain to make and store dopamine grows less and less as more brain cells die, and that sweet spot starts to diminish even narrower. For whatever reason, who knows why, my sweet spot has never really been very big at all, and it's not that my brain cells haven't been more plentiful and had a gradual process. I'm taking more levodopa now than I was when I first started, but for whatever reason I never had, when I started taking extra levodopa to compensate for tremors, I started getting dyskinesia. And most people, it takes a few years and higher doses of dopamine to do that. So lucky me. But what happens is as I take the medication, dopamine levels go up and then they go back down, and they go back up and they go back down. So about 4 times a day now, I have this cycle where I'm good for about an hour or two, and then I either start getting dyskinesias bad, or it starts to wear off and the dopamine starts to, the tremors kick in, or sometimes, like in this case, I get a mixture of both. So the deep brain stimulation promises to even that out so that I can be normal most of the time, or more functional. And if you've ever seen any videos of it, you can probably look these up on YouTube. People turn it off and turn it back on. The difference can be drastic. The doctor even showed me one video, a couple of videos of 2 guys. One of them was tremoring really badly when they turned on the